What is up, guys? We are back working on the Land Cruiser again. This time we're changing out the radiator, changing out the heater core. We're going to change a thermostat housing gasket just because it showed that it had a little leak. And we're going to be swapping out all of the worm gear style clamps to OE clamps. And I'll flip the camera around and show you what's going on. Okay, so this is the motor. When I did the motor work, this was meaning to be sold to someone else. I wasn't really going to buy this thing. So we were just getting it running. I was just using whatever clamps that were on the vehicle already. Someone had changed them out, but I did change all the hoses. So I got a bunch of OE style clamps. And what I mean by that is they are double wire like that. And they're, you know, just a bolt looking deal that threads. The ones I got are zinc plated. These are factory, which are just steel with a little coating. A lot of them rust. But the main thing that started all this, I can't drive this yet. It's not registered. The DMV won't let me register it till January. And when I did my last test drive with it, the heater wasn't working. So I know that it's getting coolant into the valve at least, which is what I just showed you with the two clamps. But I don't know if it's going further. And in the condition that everything was in before, I can't imagine it being clean inside the core, and that valve could most likely be clogged as well. So I just ordered a new valve instead of messing with the old one. And I made or put together a little heater core flush kit. So clear tubing, a little bib that connects to your hose, and a swivel ball that's going to adjust and control the pressure so we can flush it out without issue. Now, if it doesn't flush out with just water, we'll have to use some muriatic acid, but hopefully it's just water that we can get all the gunk out. When I drained the radiator, there was a bunch of gunk in it. So I'll put that picture up right here, and you can see it was like green mixed with a little bit of brown. So that stuff was in the block. Now, if we circle back to why I took this apart in the first place again, the grill mesh was in terrible condition. All of the black was gone. So I wanted to get to it, but in order to get to it, you have to take out the radiator. Now the radiator had a small leak. So if you see that right there, that's a small leak coming from this thermostat housing gasket, which I did change. So I ordered a new OEM one, and we'll be putting that in with a little bit of silicone. So that won't be a big deal, but the radiator core had a small leak just like that. And I didn't want to mess with it anymore. It is an old radiator. So I went with a aluminum Mishimoto, and that just helped me get access to these guys, which has just got a couple bolts top and bottom on each side. And I was able to take it out and refinish it with black Steelit, just like I did all of the suspension, and put a new OEM Toyota emblem. So from there, we're just going to refinish a few things with rust reformer up here. Eventually I'll get to the intake and redo that, make it look nice. But for now, we're more focused on getting these clamps changed out, flushing the core, putting the new radiator in, and getting it 100% dialed in for the moment it's registered in January. Then I could drive it without issue. So here we got the Mishimoto radiator side by side the factory radiator. So far everything's going to work, but I did notice that on the shroud, the fan shroud, I'll have to radius a little bit because it's kind of flat and it doesn't sit all the way flush right here. And I think that's it for the fan shroud mods, but I'll show you that when we get to that. This is the radiator I took out. Originally, when my father-in-law still owned it, he wanted to take this to a radiator shop, and they went through it and said it was good, but I knew deep down that it wasn't. You can see corrosion right here. I don't know why they would have wasted anyone's time saying that this radiator was good. But when I lift it up, it weighs a ton. I think there's a bunch of rust sitting out down here. The drain plug's not even in it, and I couldn't even get coolant out. I had to undo the clamp to get it all out. So the main leak was right there. You see that sideways diagonal leak? It was seeping a little bit of green coolant out, and just looking at that, I couldn't drive in good faith knowing that the radiator looked like that. So we're getting a new one. Now, one last thing I did, which I did on the Tacoma as well, is I got a bottle of 10K CST fan clutch fluid. Basically, you take this fan blade off and you've got this clutch that is bolted in with all these little bolts. So they're Phillips head on the other side. And so I opened it up. I took out, or sorry, I did not take out the original fluid. I just left it and I added 1 bottle. Some people drain all the fluid and replace it completely with 10K CST fluid. It comes with 6,500, I believe, or 6,000, one of those two. But the same thing I did on my truck was open it up, put in 1 bottle, worked fine. So we're gonna do the same thing for the Land Cruiser and hope we get the same results. Right here, I'm going to take off the original heater valve, and then we'll be able to compare and inspect it. Obviously with the new one already on hand, which I'm already going to put in, but this will just let us know if this is the issue. Okay, this is the original heater valve. This is the OEM replacement heater valve. You could still get it from Toyota. I'll put the links in the description below. After popping this out, I don't think the heater core is clogged. I really think this is the issue, and I'm gonna show you just very basic demonstration. So with this thing opened, sorry, that's closed, nothing, open, bunch of airflow. So that's open. With this thing open, barely anything. Closed. It's working closed, but definitely not flowing in, and that's probably why the core is not getting hot to begin with. Either way, we got maybe 20 bucks in clear hose and fittings for the heater core flush. So we'll hook it up, put it into a bucket, see what comes out. All right, we are all set up with the heater core flush kit. This is very, very rudimentary. We have a 3/4 piece it's basically got a ball valve that connects to a 3/4 extension with a 5/8 nipple. The reason why you want this ball valve is to control the flow rather than running over to where the spigot is, which in my case, clear on the other side of the Tacoma. So we'll bring the hose, we'll control it from that. It's gonna go in just like it would have if it was coming from the radiator through there, and it's going to purge anything in the core back into this bucket. The coolant was a little dirty, but I was really thinking that we were gonna have a clogged, nasty, mucked up radiator core, or sorry, heater core, because of how little heat I was getting, but it may have just been a lot of blockage in the heater valve. So hopefully the water is more than enough to clean it out. If not, we'll get some muriatic acid and put it in from the top hose in, but that's going to require a lot more precision because the acid is corrosive, and a lot more flushing because I don't want any acid in the coolant on a brand new aluminum radiator. Anyways, let's get to flushing and see what happens. Well, I thought I was recording and I totally was not, so I totally failed, but the coolant that's coming out is relatively clean. Basically, you open up the spigot a little bit. You don't want to put too much pressure in it, and then open it up. You can cycle it a few times to try to get the deposits out. The fluid, when it was coming out at first, was a little dirty, but this stuff's pretty clean. I'm not very concerned with it at all, and it's got a nice flow. So this thing should get nice and hot when we get the heater all put back together. So I got the hose disconnected, and I rinsed off some of the spillage from inside when I took off the heater hoses. But I'm going to pour some antifreeze in from the feed line down into the core until it starts coming out into the bucket. That way I know I have all of that water hose water out of the heater core, because it should be antifreeze or distilled water only. Well, you guys know I work outside and the weather has been terrible. I've got a small break in it right now, and I'm going to flip the camera around and show you what's going on trying to fit this Mishimoto radiator. So here we have the radiator shroud that's typically bolted to the frame, and then this is bolted to the frame further back for stability. So this is going to be right in front of the grill of the Land Cruiser. You've got bolts that line up, so these are perfect. The only thing I'm not super thrilled about is that right there, which I'm going to have to clearance, but coming over to this side, these are not lining up, and it is touching right there. So we're gonna have to clearance this one pretty good, but I don't think it'll be that big of an issue. And that one will clearance just a smidge. Now, once that's done, we've got a problem with this guy. And anyone that does aftermarket parts knows nothing fits perfectly. This is always gonna happen when you modify things. So I'm not saying anything bad about Mishimoto, but we've got a shroud that needs to be radiused out right here to clear that neck, because it doesn't want to line up with these holes. And this one lines up just fine. So it's really just clearancing that needs to be done right there on the bottom, and I think we'll be good to go. All right, so here is the first cut, hopefully the last. Same on this side. And then the radiator shroud one. This one needs to be evened out just a smidge, but I want to see if I need to take any more off. So we'll get the radiator back out and see how it fits. Okay, so honestly, I couldn't even ask for a more perfect cut on this. Look at how centered we've got these holes. I mean, that is just money right there. Pretty crazy. So this one actually came out pretty perfect. I'll knock that top edge down just a bit. And then this one, same thing, pretty good right here. I just need to knock that corner down a little bit more. And then we can move on to painting that radiator black, because it is not going in raw aluminum. I ended up ordering all OEM clamps for the entire engine bay, and here is the old worm gear junk. I was going to use a aftermarket set of clamps. None of them fit right. The sizes weren't correct. The quantity and the kit wasn't correct. So I just sent it back, and we're going to just throw on all the new hose clamps all the way around. I already put the fuel clamps on, took the worm gear ones off. So we're gonna get it looking nice and factory. I hate jumping around in videos, but the weather's been really bad lately, and I've been working at odd hours, kind of late at night and whatnot. So you didn't get to see me spray this in black, but basically I got 2 cans of this, and honestly 1 can would have been fine, but I guess I have extra for later, or maybe even touch up. But this is Eastwood Radiator Black. It's designed to dissipate heat and not interfere with anything as far as cooling goes. So they recommend 2 coats. With a 30-minute flash time in between each one, which is exactly what I did here. And as you can see, it looks beautiful. So a lot of people were wondering why I went aluminum. It dissipates heat better than the original. The original radiator was trashed, and I like the way it looks black. It just looks very clean, and it's going to blend right in. So aside from that, these are all of the worm gear clamps that I took off. And it's a little windy outside, so I'm gonna go out there and show you, and hopefully the microphone is able to block out that wind. Well, as expected, the wind was just too much. The microphone was really choppy. So I'm just going to voice over and show you all of the clamps that I put in. I'm a little OCD, so they're all uniformly put in so they look good and lined up, at least in my eyes. From here, you can see the alternator bracket and the engine hook were also refinished, as well as the water pump pulley and the front main pulley. And I even went as far as taking that little engine girdle kind of subframe deal that goes across the frame at the bottom, took that out completely and refinished that whole deal. So a lot of this video was actually done over the course of almost like 3 or 4 weeks. It's taken me to do all this because the refinishing part takes so long. But I got the new emblem in the grill, the radiator mounting shroud is back in, and now we can drop in the radiator and get the fan clutch and fan shroud in and get it that much closer to firing up. Right here, I'm just showing you up close the air cleaner and all of the rust. It even had some rust inside. So I haven't touched that, but we've got the alternator bracket and the top portion of the air cleaner already sanded. This took literally hours of sanding, painting, and sanding again just to get it nice and blocked out even. And I figured we might as well do the alternator pulley while everything was apart. That way the entire pulley system is refinished. And then once we get that air cleaner back on, it'll make everything just look beautiful with the new radiator installed. Well, there it is, guys. I've been having issues with the wind all day, but we've got refinished grill, refinished radiator in black because it was raw aluminum, all OEM clamps, refinished the radiator shroud, pulleys, the engine cradle, the frame, and I also went ahead and put the new Land Cruiser emblems on the side. And so right now, you know the drill with the new radiator, you just top it off, turn the heater all the way, get the fluid through the core, bleed out all the bubbles, and then it's good to go. I'm still working on refinishing the air filter upper and lower portions, but we're gonna end the video here. We're pretty much all bolted back together with the exception of one alternator bracket to put tension on the belt itself. But I'm thinking that this looks great, and hopefully I stop working on this and start driving it. But either way, if you made it this far, thank you as always. Like and subscribe if you haven't already.